This is how I made the Majora's Mask from the Zelda games. A buddy of mine had his birthday not too long ago, and he's also made 2 fan films based off of the Zelda games. And I thought, hey, maybe he should get the mask in one of his films. So I decided I should make this for his birthday. This is one of the very few times I've actually worked with EVA foam, so I was very nervous and hesitant to making this mask, but I was really excited going along because it was turning out really well as I went. I made my own paper design, and then I used reference photos to make the outlines for the mask. And right here, I noticed that I made the same side twice. Soon I will realize my mistake, but now we just get to watch until I do. This is the moment I realized my mistake. As I finished that second cut halfway, I grabbed my face in disgust. Right here, I'm using a heat gun to get some curves going on the foam, so that way when I start to actually glue it together, it'll form into the shape that I like. And I'm also cutting out these darts, so that way I can get the curve shape that I want. And adding the glue here, it's content cement, so you have to apply it on both surfaces, let it dry for a few minutes, and then it becomes tacky, and then you glue it all together. It is glue that is used from many different people that work with EVA foam. Now I'm going over the whole surface of the mask just to get the foam nice and ready for when I do start to paint, but there are still some detail pieces that I'll have to add. Here I cut the holes for the eyes so that way I can add in new pieces that have a curved shape. I'm using the heat gun, and then I'm forming it by pushing it into the bowl. And then once I have that shape, I can just cut around the edges so it's a perfect fit. Now I'm starting to add the glue onto the eye pieces and then the frames around the eye. This process does take a little while, letting the glue dry, and then also making sure to be very careful putting the eyes in, because if you put the pieces together in the wrong spot, they will stick permanently. So you got to be really careful going around the edges, making sure it goes in just right. Now I'm plugging in my Dremel to add a texture that looks like wood on this EVA foam. And I'm really happy with how it turns out. It's really easy. All you need is just a simple little sanding bit, and then just slightly coarse over the foam. And you can even go a little harder, adding like knots, adding like little rough spots on the foam. Just really thinking of how wood looks. Now I'm going to use my paper pattern using reference photos to get all the detail lines and also the painted on details. But I'm going to cut this all out of some craft foam that you can see. This is me looking into the eyes of pain. Now I got the wood texture onto the EVA foam. It looks really good. And now I'm going to start cutting out all the pieces. Here I got the iframes, and I got the rest of them right here that I can start cutting out. Now I'm making the spikes or little horns that go around the whole mask. If you can see, I've accidentally cut out less than I needed. I was too short. But later on, after I've added the paint job, I figured that out, and then I added them later on. Right here, I'm adding a layer of Mod Podge over the whole mask just to give the foam a bit of more of a wood texture. It also protects the foam when I go to add paint later on. And then once this dries, I'm going to add some detail stuff. So I got the little holes right there. And I'm using also my pattern to put the other detail holes that go on the top and the bottom. And then once those are marked, I can go ahead with my Dremel and then just drill those holes, being very careful and tedious on where they go, because one simple mistake and then I gotta start all over. As you can see here, now I've gotten all the holes, 6 at the top, 2 in the middle, 8 at the bottom. Now I'm gonna start adding on the horns or spikes that go around the whole mask, and as you watch this, you'll see that I have 2 that are missing, but later on I will fix this. Here's the mask after a layer of Plasti Dip, and then I can start the paint process using some acrylic paints and spray paint, starting with purple, going over with just the base colors, and then I'm going to start painting the horns with a wooden texture, and then once I got those done, I can start adding the orange. Now I'm going with the orange around the 2 top horns, and then I'm also going to be adding orange all around the eyes, and I'm also doing some of the green on the pupils themselves. Here I'm using the orange spray paint to go around the whole inner part of the mask, and I'm trying my best to keep my paint off of the black detail lines. And right here I'm adding some of the white, and then I'm also using white paint to do the little diamond shaped things or triangles, and then later on I'll come back with some orange. Here's the mask with the almost completed paint job. I just got to finish up some of the cheeks and then add those horns that I was missing. The mask is then weathered with a black wash paint. That's how I made the Majora's Mask. I really enjoyed making this project. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I plan to post my next video sometime soon here. And I'll put a link to my buddy's YouTube channel in the description below. Make sure to go subscribe and check out the 2 fan films he made for Zelda. They're pretty awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching.